So today we'll start with events and return values. Actually, I've already covered this in the previous lecture, in the previous course, but then still I just want to show what it is and so that we can proceed with our events on the web3.js. And it's a very important part. So basically, EVM has a logging functionality. The events inform external user or the front end or whatever the application is connected to, not in the back end but in the front end, that some action has happened, some changes have taken, some state changes have taken place. So this is the syntax of how you can show an event, and this is how you emit an event. So you define this at the very top of your contract, and then in the emit thing you can do it from any function. Whenever that function is called, there will be an emit. Next, we have the return values trigger function. Basically, return values trigger functionality and cheap storage. Actually, it's like basically you don't put all these like you put it in the storage, but then you get a logging from there. So it will be easier to know for the front end that some change has occurred. So that's it for this. Let's go into how we can implement this. So this is your simple storage.solve. I've cleared out everything. Let's again recode it, the whole thing, to use the events. This time we'll have a simple contract which will have some kind of index to log everything. Then we'll have some kind of events which will get logged and a function which will emit the events. So let's try that out. So let's start with pragma. Point 6.0. Let's write the contract name, contract simple storage. Okay, so basically I'm using the simple storage contract only because if we are changing the name of the contract, we have to again initialize the whole thing in app.js as creating an instance, the deployed network, pulling the .json format of the same ABI. So that's very hectic. So you can keep it as the same name, or if you want to do the same, you just copy the prototype from the app.js. It always remains the same. Just you have to change the name of your contract everywhere, and rest everything will be same. So you can directly copy from app.js and keep it in your project as the same thing. Now let's start. So till here it's only a simple contract. Now we'll add an index. So let's call it as event, let's say public, and then index. So this is basically an index, you can say an ID or a roll number, you can say, to list the events. So that is one thing. Now we'll write a event. So we'll write event. Let's keep the event's name as K. You can keep it anything, my event, event, a capital E event, because small e event is basically a keyword. So you can keep it anything, trigger event or anything. So this is the event right now. I won't be sending parameters right now. I'll show you how to do that. Next, we'll define a function. So function, let's call it as event emit. Next up, we'll pass some arguments in here, and then we'll make it external. We are making it external just because it will be only for calling from outside and not anywhere inside the contract. Like only you can call it from outside or some front end client or like that, but not from inside. Now we'll pass in a string, just as we did in the previous lectures, an identifier. So we'll be passing a string out here. So we'll put string call data and x. So what is this call data? Call data is basically same as memory type, but then it is only used with external functions. So let's see. So we have the external function ready. Now we have to just emit the event. Let's say emit k. I'll specify the parameters later, and then we have to increase the index. because this is listed as the first index, so we have to increase the index. So we'll do index plus plus. As index is a global variable, it will be easier to list out everything. Now let's give some parameters to our events. The event, we can take some parameters. One will be the index. So event index, comma event, let's say date, and then a string identifier as I've given in the previous lecture. String ID. Okay. So now we'll emit the event from here. So for the indexing, it will be the same. So at the starting, this comes with 0. This index will be initialized with 0. You log this via 0 ID and then it gets plus plus. So the next time it will be 1. So index, then for the date, you have to write it as now. This actually gives the Unix epoch time right now. And then we can put the identifier as X. So this identifier, basically the X will be a string which will be passed by the front end, and then you take it and then you emit it in the event. So I guess that's clear. So now what we can do is we can put out here a keyword known as indexed. So what this indexed will do, it is basically for easy retrieval or indexing. So what we can do is each and every event will be listed via its event, the index basically. So what happens in databases, as you have seen, that if there is a unique ID for each document or each row, then it is easier to find. So this creates a unique ID, which is the index, so that you can search by index. Also, you can search the blockchain by date. So here database is concerned as the blockchain. So you can search it with either index or date. But in this case out here, we don't put it for identifiers. We can. So then it will search with the string type. So that's why indexes are used, the indexed keyword. Next up, we have the index plus plus. We can modify this to, right now what is happening is that you have initially kept it as 0. Out here it will be initialized with 0. You send event with 0 out here, it will get listed with 0 index. Next we'll increase the index and 1, so the next time it will be 1. The event emitted will be 1. So now what we can do, we'll just cut that and we'll paste it out here. So now what will happen is that it is exact same thing. This will get initialized to 0. It will be first 0. It will pass the event with all these parameters, but the index value will be 0. After this line has been completed, then the index will get incremented. This is known as postfix operators, or basically the increment operator. So exactly, that's how it works. Let's see the app.js. Let's save it.